Here.
Mr. Gephardt? Here. Mr. Dawson? Mr. Rosa? Mr. Henry?
Here.
Mr. Whitten? Mr. Eason? Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Wright? Mr. Brock?
Here.
Mr. Keel? Mr. Middle?
Here.
Mr. McNabb?
Present.
Mr. Sherrill? Mr. Peck?
Present. Okay, moving on. We're going to make a couple of adjustments to the agenda today. We're going to move item A under new business to be the first item heard. And then we're going to move items F, G, H, I, and J under old business to be the second.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, G, H, and J are going to be postponed off of this agenda, so those items will not be covered.
Okay, so we'll do item under old business, item F to be number 2 and I to be number 3.
So those will move to the September 28th agenda.
Okay,
So that will just leave on F and I on I.
F and I, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Item A, old business.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, on this item, this is one of the amendments that was taken to the Planning Commission for consideration. Planning Commission directed staff to create a definition for this resulting from zoning, and that is what we will today.
Okay. Fantastic.
Okay.
Is there a staff, that's the staff briefing, I'm assuming?
Yes, so this is the definition that was created and provided for tax consideration.
Okay. Is the applicant here?
Yes, yes. And if you don't mind, I'd like to distribute a document to the committee members.
Yes.
Okay. What I'm distributing is a letter that more clearly defines my request. And I would say I appreciate the city staff, and I understand that you did this under direction not to impact zoning. But this amendment bears no resemblance to my original intent. In fact, if you pass this amendment this afternoon, it would have the exact opposite effect of what I'm intending. And so I'm distributing this letter that describes really my true intent here. So I requested an amendment clarifying the UBC to ensure that ambulatory surgical center would be defined, included in the non-residential use matrix, and excluded from the C1 zoning district. And as you can see, this amendment would do just the opposite. So what I propose is on the first page of my letter that an ambulatory surgical center or facility as the definition of an ASC. A facility licensed by the state of Texas that operates primarily to provide surgical services to patients who do not require ODOT hospital care, or a facility that is required by law to meet the state of Texas licensing requirements of the statutorily defined ambulatory surgical center, or a facility licensed and regulated under Chapter 243 of the Texas Health and Safety Code for hospital. And I do want to say that I do have some expertise to discuss this. I have expertise from a couple of perspectives. One is that I'm a physician. I've been a physician for many years. I practiced here in San Antonio, and I actually went to medical school here in San Antonio. And I'm also, I think, able to discuss this from the standpoint of a resident of a neighborhood that was impacted by a facility that was improperly placed next to a residential area. And I have several neighbors with me here today who can attest to the negative impact, in fact, the nuisance that facility has caused in our neighborhood. So I want to go on here. Similarly, I propose that an ASC be listed in Table 311-2 non-residential use matrix as P for permitted use under zoning district C2, C3, and D. If the city identifies a land-based classification standard code for an ASC, then I propose that the LBCS code be 6510 for ambulatory or outpatient care services, or LBCS code 6530 for a hospital. If the city identifies a North American Industry Classification Code for an ASC, then I propose that the NAICS code be 621493 for freestanding ambulatory surgical and emergency centers, or NAISC code be 62110 for hospitals, general medical, and surgical. Like a hospital, an ASC is licensed and regulated by the state. The state will not grant a licensed property used as an ASC unless that ASC meets the state's requirements for personnel management, medical equipment, fixtures, architectural design, engineering plans, plumbing, electrical, and other design and construction specifications. Unlike an ASC, a doctor's office/clinic does not require licensure from the state, and the state does not regulate the property use of the doctor's office. An ASC can be used to administer general anesthesia where a doctor's office cannot. You go to a doctor's office and have a surgical procedure, you might have a local anesthetic, where you have a skin, a mole removed or something like that. You put a local anesthetic, which is injected into that immediate area. An ASC has to have the ability to provide general anesthesia, where an endotracheal tube is placed in a patient's trachea, they're put completely asleep for the procedure. Despite my efforts to obtain the previous amendments, the PCTAC agenda for today indicates that city staff proposed definitions for my amendment that would equate an ASC with a doctor's office and have the effect of allowing an ASC to be in less than a C2 zoning district. The city staff agenda item is the opposite of the amendment I proposed. The clarification I seek is to ensure that an ASC is defined akin to what the state of Texas has defined it to be, and that it remains in the category aligned to a hospital. As you may recall, in April 2015, Robert Berry and I submitted this proposed amendment to the UDC, to the Planning Commission Technical Advisory Committee. As in Table 311-2, as the new entry to non-residential use matrix for ambulatory surgical centers, and only allows use within C2 and C3 zoning districts. I attended the meeting of this committee on July 13th for voice support for my proposed amendment. And it was decided at that time to pass that amendment on to the Planning Commission for consideration. Then I attended the Planning Commission meeting on August 12th, where it was decided that my amendment should be modified to define where an ASC should fit in the zoning designations of the UDC and sent back to this committee for further action. At that time, I voiced my position that an ASC should be categorized as a hospital. I'm shocked to see the wording of the proposed amendment, as you can see on the screen, attributed to me is actually in exact opposition to my original amendment and intent. Since this wording does not reflect my original intent, nor the intent of the decision made at the Planning Commission meeting on August 12th, and was obviously made by city staff and drafted there, that proposal should be withdrawn and replaced with my proposal above. I'd like to now state my reasons for proposing the wording in this amendment. It is clear from reading the LDCS that a doctor's clinic, Code 6511, is distinct and different from ambulatory outpatient care services, Code 6510, and hospital Code 6530. This distinction in function or use is further noted in the above statute cited for the state's regulation of ASC, combined with the above definition, which in large part comes from the state statute. If you look at the UDC, the current definition specifically prohibits operating rooms for major surgery for a clinic, dental, or medical. This prohibition makes it inappropriate to include ambulatory surgical centers within LCPS Function 6511, clinic, dental, or medical. Since the current definitions, Appendix A of the UDC, prohibit major surgery in LCPS Function 6511, the clinic will allow it in LBCS 6530 hospital, then an ASC either has its own function as proposed above or is placed into the hospital LBCS function of 6530 as also offered above. According to the American Planning Association, public officials have a significant interest in separating uses that create public nuisance situations. The situation caused by a Planned Parenthood ambulatory surgical center at 2140 Babcock has created an ongoing public nuisance situation in my neighborhood. You need to look no further than the no parking signs that went up in my neighborhood last month. Very unsightly no parking signs, I might say, as evidence of that nuisance. Historically, ASCs in San Antonio have been in locations zoned C2 or higher, which is consistent with a hospital designation and not with a medical clinic designation. In fact, of 71 ambulatory surgical centers in San Antonio, only 3 outliers, including the one at 2140 Babcock, are in buildings zoned C1. All the rest are C2 or higher. Aside from the 2140 Babcock, the other 2 outliers, ASC zone C1, is completely inside a 200-acre Prisca Santa Rosa campus while the others closed. Therefore, the only ASC in San Antonio that is zone C1 and encroaches on a residential neighborhood is the one at 2140 Babcock. My corrected amendment would protect other residential neighborhoods from similar public nuisance situations. My amendment would also ensure that an outlier amongst 71 ASCs does not become the new one for the city. Trending the city's past treatment of these ASCs indicates that nearly 96% of them are in C1 and C3 zones. The 3 outliers referenced account for the 4%. The sole outlier encroaching on the residential neighborhood, 2140 Babcock, accounts for 1%. So finally, I respectfully ask that you make a decision today that protects residential neighborhoods such as mine from public nuisance situations that occur when an ASC is allowed to located immediately adjacent to single-family homes. This is not the same situation as being located adjacent to a mobile home. Please provide ASCs with the definition I provided.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item? Yes. How many people do we have that would like to speak? Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Bondo. I'm with the San Antonio Family Association.
Are you one of the applicants on here, or are you just?
No, I'm on the new business piece.
Okay. How many people are signed or would like to speak on this item? If you could please raise your hand. All right. In the interest of time, we're going to limit the time to speak to 2 minutes.
Okay. What I'd like to do is start off with saying, would all the residents of Dreamhill Estates neighborhood please stand up? All the residents. Mrs. Rojas, would you please stand up? Okay. So there's about 100 homes in that residential neighborhood. They vary in value from about 100,000 up to a couple that are $1 million. Very diverse neighborhood. And so I appreciate everybody from Dreamhill Estates coming out, and especially Dr. Tim Barker. But he said something there at the end that was very poignant, is that this ASC is not zoned like any other ambulatory surgery center. Matter of fact, Rod Sanchez himself admitted in May at a building-related board hearing, building-related fire code that Fields and Advisory Board, Mr. Hanley sits on. He admitted in public testimony that a material similar use decision had been made on this building. And yet, he didn't know who made it, he didn't review it, and he couldn't tell us who did it. So pretty incredible knowing that the Director of Development Services sitting here today couldn't answer those questions, yet that decision to make a material similar use determination is reserved, according to the DSC's own handbook, is reserved only for the Director himself. So how in the world could that decision be made from that standpoint? So we have a situation where we have 71 ambulatory surgery centers. All of them are zoned C3 or C2, with a few exceptions at C1. And the only existing C1 that's comparable to this was a benchmark that Rod Sanchez and Michael Shannon decided to use, a LASIK eye surgery center downtown, just north of here, just north of downtown. That LASIK eye surgery center was their benchmark to make the material similar use determination. And because they both did day surgery, yet they neglected to state that the surgery and the intensity of the surgery was completely different. Eye surgery, if you haven't seen it, is non-bloody. They work on one at a time, and nobody's life is threatened. In this situation, I asked for a few more seconds just to wrap it up. In this situation, people are use general anesthesia, put completely under sedation, and people's life is in danger. It's completely different from that standpoint, and also the mayor's office told us just recently, after that meeting,
Okay, it's time to wrap it up. That's it.
that the mayor said
Sir, please,
that that office is now zone C2, not C1.
Okay, who else is signed to speak? Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, other members of the group here. My name is Jack M. Finger. Folks, I am one of the concerned citizens who come by to speak to you today. My question is, why do we bother to have classifications for any kind of medical facility? Why? I mean, why not just lump them all together and let the neighbors take potluck? I think we know why. It's because of the health and safety, the welfare of everybody who has to live around these things. Now, Mr. Barker has proposed something, a decent proposal regarding, especially with the big situation we have at 2140 Babcock. I think we're all familiar with that. It's an attempt to clarify something. All along, we've had big problems. Citizens have big problems with the Planned Parenthood clinic there. It's obviously miszoned. Nobody seems to be, in the respective departments, seem to be paying attention to that. Instead, have been giving Planned Parenthood a big pass. Okay, so in an attempt to try to rectify that, we know the fact that it has to be an ambulatory surgical center now. Fine, we'll try and include ambulatory surgical centers into C2 and C3. Mr. Walker has proposed that. What happened? Somebody screwed it up. What exactly gives here? We do not like that. We want things to be done right. And we want the ambulatory surgical center to be placed in its respective C2 and C3 where it belongs. Please understand, this is all we're asking. Do the right thing.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon. My name is Jose Rojas. I'm a neighbor in the States. They're very concerned because of the heavy traffic that is happening lately in the opening of this clinic. In the neighborhood, there is a big small park where children could come and play on daycare center nearby. But because with this heavy traffic on those automobiles, making unlawful U-turns and taking shortcuts just because they feel like it, our children don't go play around the area anymore. It's very disheartening to see all these bad things happening to our neighborhood without so much. And I hope we can take care of that pretty soon. For each today, but tragedy strikes. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Who else back there wants to speak?
Yes, we have to.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Okay.
My name is Mike Menafee. Thank you for your time today. I thought it was probably appropriate to bring up some of the issues that we've been through. Some of you know me in this room from the building-related board, where we made 3 or 4 appeals, 2 actual hearings in this very building about 2140 Babcock. And you may not know this, but even the building-related board feels that there is a serious issue with zoning in this particular facility. And as you know, it's C1 and it's 5,000 square feet is the maximum. This is a 22,300 square foot facility. The building-related board, the first time, had a resolution that we were to take this to the Board of Adjustment, and it is to be written and sent to the Board of Adjustments. And it has been, but we've heard nothing from the Board of Adjustments. Then about a month later, is that about right? About a month later, once again we find ourselves in front of the board, the building-related board, and this time the board concluded that the last one didn't work, sent it to the Board of Adjustments. So this one we're going to add that needs to go to City Council for their ratification or review or whatever the case might be. Once again, now this was drawn up by the chairman and it was sent to the city. Once again, no action whatsoever. So there seems to be some serious issues related to this particular definition because no one in the city wishes to address it, it appears. And so what we're asking today is for you to honor what Mr. Barker has written originally and to clarify this, to make it crystal clear that a ambulatory surgery center is not to ever be in a C1, but rather a C2 or greater.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tina Wheeler. I live in Juvenile Estates. I serve on the Neighborhood Association Board. I'm here to echo my neighbors' concerns. Since the clinic has been established and during its construction, we've been experiencing increased crime. We're also worried about our safety. This has really changed the dynamic of our neighborhood. Looking at previous scenarios like in other areas where clinics have been built, a resident of one said, living in the neighborhood that houses a business like a clinic is disturbing to say the least. I'm pro-choice, but I am not pro-violence or pro-visual pollution, which has all happened before on a regular basis and surely will happen on a new site. Several businesses closed or relocated because no one wanted their services so close to the clinic. Home values went down and several homeowners sold or rented their properties out. Why should the opinions of the clinic outweigh those who are already there? And that's exactly what we've been experiencing. Again, as I mentioned, the increase in crime that we've noticed, we do have a daycare center located on the perimeter of the neighborhood, which is 1 block down from the clinic. In that facility are 80 children. And the thing that really is worrisome, not just for them, but also for the rest of the neighborhood, up in Austin earlier this year in March, there was basically a lit Molotov cocktail thrown on people who were on the sidewalk outside of a Planned Parenthood there. So we're also concerned very much for our safety. So definitely certain guidelines and regulations help ensure the safety of residents who are already living in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Sylvia Gilbert, and I'm a resident of San Antonio. I live in District 9. I come here, I'm one of the women that is out on the sidewalk ministering to these women before they enter this facility. I have concerns about this facility because I know that they have 2 operating rooms and they do administer IV sedation. They give Versed and another medication that doesn't come to mind right now. But abortion is a blind procedure to begin with. Okay, just think about that. It can wound and kill a woman.
Okay, we're not here to discuss abortion, we're here to discuss this wording on this code amendment. If you could please keep it to that, I appreciate it.
Okay, sir. Anyway, this ambulatory surgical facility is more than what it looks from the outside. I asked you to get it moved because it's zoned improperly. What is happening there is much higher level than what has been given. And I ask that you consider looking at this very carefully and get it moved. Not rezoned, but moved from there. I ask you because I see what's going on from the outside as people are leaving this facility. It's a little bit greater than you think. If they can't have tattoos in this facility, why are they able to have surgical procedures? And these are blind surgical procedures that are dangerous, that are life-threatening. I think you need to review this. I don't think it's that difficult. I think you need to do your job. I'm a citizen of this city, and you work for me. So I expect you to do, sir, Mr. Henley. Not only you're not paying attention,
I am
you're
paying
shaking
attention,
your
and I've
head,
heard it
and that's
many
very
times.
disrespectful.
Every time you people
No,
come
sir,
up,
I am a
you attack
citizen
the
here.
people that
I'm
are
not
here to make the
attacking,
decision.
I'm not judging,
Yes,
sir.
you are.
But you
already
should
said that.
give me the kindness and the consideration of paying attention. You have been fiddling with your papers since I get here. No,
I didn't-
Mr. Hanley, you've already predetermined
Okay,
this
that's what I'm trying to do.
terminal.
Please sit down.
Thank you.
Part of the one I'm reading concerns your case.
I'm pretty low and cheap.
If you'd like to be escorted from the building, I will call security, ma'am.
You can do whatever you want. You have free
I'm sorry,
reign.
ma'am, your time is up.
George, you need to.
Hi, my name is Lori Rojas, and I am another resident of Dream Hills Estates. And I've been to the building related board, and I've also been to visit with the mayoral staff personally. And because of the issues that are arising, that she's asked for an independent investigation into the zoning of this location. But a couple of things that we're looking at is we've seen a noticeable increase in activity in our neighborhood from the point of construction to the point they opened, to the point they started performing surgeries. So what we're trying to do is, in terms of our own neighborhood, is to prevent this from happening to a future neighborhood. So Mr. Barker has very meticulously created and crafted an idea that I hope you guys consider very strongly, because this has had a very detrimental effect on our neighborhood. I do sit on the board of Dream Hills Estates, and it's been highly divisive. We've had a lot of folks, we are seeing a situation where many of the homes are turning into rentals. Our property values are lower, and that we were even sold for lower than what the median price was for the city in July. So looking at many of these things, it does make a difference when we look at how does a non-residential use impact a residential community. So for the future, we are hoping that this could be rezoned, but we also want to make sure that this goes on the books for similar situations that could arise later. Not knowing what comes up, but we do appreciate your time and we appreciate your consideration. Thank you very much.
Okay, I guess that's about it for citizens heard. We'll go for discussion. Is there any questions from Mike?
I'm not sure I understand what the effects of whichever language we pick. If this is supposed to, we're wanting this to go to C1, can you go in and just change the zoning on something without giving someone a special use permit or non-conforming rights before you do it?
Well, you do not change anyone's zoning without a zoning case. And before you would have to make a change to the C2, but should we decide an ambulatory surgical center requires a C2, all those that are in C1 would have non-conforming rights to continue.
The point being, whatever's there would have non-conforming right. Correct. Even with the new zoning, so that doesn't really change anything except for new services.
Council?
Correct. Can you guys just say another or make sure you're talking? It's hard to hear. I don't have hard to hear.
Brother James.
Okay, sorry, can you hear me? So if the council was to change the zoning, council decides that it's appropriate to C2 now, all existing facilities would continue to be allowed, they were in the C1, continue to be allowed, they just be non-conforming use.
So in terms of their issue of this going away or being changed or whatever, there's not really anything at this point the city can do about it because it's already there and it's already in operation.
Correct.
Unless it's doing something that is illegal.
Correct.
Any other comments? Anybody on this? Questions? Okay.
So are we looking at approving what we have on the screen there? or-
That's,
Yes, sir.
yes, sir, that's exactly right.
That was the direction that we had from planning commission.
You remember right, we changed the plan?
Yeah.
So this is really a recommendation, Chairman, from the planning commission back to the advisory.
Yeah, planning commission looked at the original amendment and wanted staff to come up with a definition for ambulatory surgery center. That's what we're reviewing today. This definition. It's really, really goes back to planning commission.
Which
This is really a planning commission amendment at this point.
Wasn't this amendment originally proposed though by individuals?
It was, but it was a substantive amendment, so, which didn't follow the UDC. So therefore, the planning commission took a look at it. The planning commission said, we will take this amendment and send it forward. This is the amendment we're going to consider. So this is a planning commission amendment. The amendment they submitted did not meet the criteria. So it's only here because the planning commission decided to send this forward in this fashion.
And if they hadn't brought this to the city's attention, would there have been an amendment to this definition? Did the city feel that a definition was, amendment was required? Or, for instance, the historical preservation officer was before us, had an amendment, and we didn't agree with the amendment, and it's just disappeared in thin air. This one seems to have its own life and keeps coming back. I mean, what is there, did the city feel that there needed to be further clarification on this definition?
Well, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was no definition previously in UDC for an ambulatory surgery center, which is a creature of, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years ago when they started becoming a proliferation of ambulatory surgical centers. There wasn't a clear definition, hence there was an interpretation made as to what category this would fall in. So I think that the issue, the way I understood it, was we needed to have a definition of an ASC.
That's correct. You got to remember there are thousands of uses out there that are not defined by the UDC, that have no place in the UDC. So when those uses come before us, we have to make an interpretation as to where they go. That's what we did in this case. So to answer your question, this is not our amendment. We didn't feel one was necessary. But the amendment that is proposed right now is acceptable to the city and we recommend it.
May I say, this is not mine either. This is
Another question just on the language. It says our apothecary limited to sale of pharmaceutical or medical supplies, and I wondered how that qualifies as an ambulatory surgical center.
Basically, what this amendment is doing is it's going to encapsulate everything related to ambulatory surgical centers, dentist's office, medical doctor's office, pharmacies. And so that's why we're encompassing it into one amendment. So you'll see the first line says ambulatory surgical center, see clinic, dental, or medical. So that way we as staff have one definition to refer to. And the definition is going to include all those services that I just stated, along with a reference to the Texas Administrative Code, which provides a definition of what an ambulatory surgical center is.
Well, it just says and or apothecary that only prescribes drugs, basically.
Assuming an apothecary.
That's currently in the definition today, so we're not making any changes.
Of a medical clinic.
Yes.
Or an
Yes.
ambulatory surgical center.
Yes. Right. So everything that's in black is currently the definition today. Everything that's in red is what we're proposing to strike out, and everything that's in blue is what we're proposing to add.
So in black, you just limit the apothecaries, pharmaceutical, medical supply. That's all, the sale of that.
But that was just for clinic, dental, or medical, it wasn't for ambulatory surgery center. Those ambulatory surgery centers do language.
Correct.
But you, if I take what you're doing is you're saying, and you're referring us to the definition.
Yes, so we have one definition for all elements.
Mr. Barker, on your definition that you proposed, I read it because I don't know what all these statutes mean or say, and I don't see that it's that much difference. There must be something within the context of chapter 243 that's different. Can you explain how your definition is different than this definition?
Sure, I think you just look at operating rooms. You see that what staff has done, they have marked out in red the bottom line that says operating rooms. So an ambulatory surgical center has to have operating rooms. That red was the old, I wish we could put up there the current definition of clinic, medical, or dental. But
it's there,
it's marked out, yeah. So that is a huge, huge difference.
It says operating rooms for major surgery, then just say operating rooms for major
Operating
surgery.
rooms for major surgery, and that's what an ASC is. So an ASC, major surgery, where you have the ability to do general anesthesia. So it's major surgery. Minor surgery in a clinic would be like you go in, you come into my office, and I take a bowl on these.
So if I have an arthroscopic surgery, it's no longer general anesthetic, it's major surgery.
Yes. Yeah. So I think this is clearly different. This is 180 degrees from my intent. And I think if you look at the current definition for hospital, that's where you see operating rooms and surgery. So it's very clear, if you look at the current definitions, that major surgery should not happen in a clinic, medical, or dental. And this would completely overturn that. This would allow an ambulatory surgical center anywhere in San Antonio that's done C1. So it completely opens that up, which is completely breaks with the historic precedent in the city. And I think that's a big step backwards for San Antonio.
Okay, relative to your neighborhood group, no matter what we do, it's not going to change the use of the facility that's already there.
I love San Antonio. I don't want other neighborhoods to suffer.
So that's what your interest is.
Question, so are you saying too that an existing mediclinic, by the strikeout of that last line, now is able to perform major surgeries if they wanted to?
I obviously didn't craft this.
No, I'm just, yeah, it allows that any medical center or clinic to perform major surgery. Which those are dotted all over the place, and usually in neighborhoods, residential areas. I agree, I think that language ought to be back in.
Mr. Chair, if I can address that, I think the reason staff proposed taking out that provision for major surgery is that DSD Open Compliance did not want to get in the business of defining what is major surgery. Oral surgeons on a regular basis in their clinical office perform oral surgery with all types of anesthesia. Probably not intubating, but certainly.
Right.
And I do not say, and I don't believe that intubating is always the criteria. Generally, I would agree with that's probably major surgery, yes, if someone's intubating. I don't know that that's even an issue in an abortion procedure. The whole point in the Texas Health and Safety Code, Texas Administrative Code, big distinction is the length of stay. And I think that's what they tried to incorporate here.
But it still requires that it's an outpatient surgical procedure.
Correct. I mean, that's kind of where we're coming from. You got to remember, we're doing zoning. As planners, it's our job to look at the use and the impact that it has on the surrounding uses. So that's how we define this. We believe in doing inpatient surgery, that's more of a hospital. And a hospital has a greater impact on the surrounding use. You have ambulances, you have helicopters, you have a lot of activities that has an impact on the surrounding neighborhood. A clinic, an outpatient, from the outpatient surgery, you're in, you're out, you don't have an impact. From a planning standpoint, on a neighborhood. So that's our definition on a planning standpoint. And how this use fits into our scheme of uses and use matters.
The only thing missing here for me is the permitted uses table, Tony, from this definition. Can you show us that to see why? And I think it goes to your point, Mike, I'm not sure, whatever the definition is, it doesn't address their immediate concern.
That was the point I was going to make, that have we looked at this yet? Are we missing the point? Because obviously what they're saying has to do with permitted use table, number one. Number two, so again, I mean, is this definition, obviously it's a broad definition because it's including something that a lot of people have spoken against, but it's including a lot of other things as well. I heard what you said about we can't define everything. I'm not suggesting that we define everything either. I'm just saying there's a lot of pretty specific definitions out there. And I don't know if that may be a question for you. That's another problem is we have a wide range of things here, and there happens to be a point that really, again, and the chairman said it, that's not what we're really looking at. We're looking at what this says, not splitting it into two. So that we may be looking at the wrong thing or tackling this the wrong way. But if that's not out there, I'm not sure what we did.
So under the permitted uses table, it appears that this definition of clinic or the future definition is allowed in all zoning categories, commercial, C1, C2, C3, is that what it is? And then, but you were hoping to move this particular definition to which category would you want it to be?
C2, below, to the hospital, medical hospital below San Antonio. I actually wanted a new designation, but I have to pick between the two. I say medical hospital and San Antonio.
That's not the same. The new definition's not there.
And clearly pushing the definition of clinics as it stood before in the hospitals and not work for Watts Meeting or Dennis. So the real issue is, can you do a clinic in C1? Is that the existing zoning you were dealing with?
Can you just tell us what those policies are, just run across the road so everybody knows?
Sure. The first column, Kat, correct me if I'm wrong. The first column is 01 and 01.5. The second column would be 02. Then you have NC, which is neighborhood commercial, C1, C2, C3, D, L, I1, I2, and this column is the ERC.
And that's not a change. And the proposal with this
Which is not a change.
none of this is changed.
That's correct. This is current.
You just highlighted it so we can see.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh. So ambulatory surgical center would go there? Or
That's what it's referring to.
You're saying?
Who's our interpretation? Basically, you're saying ambulatory center is outpatient surgery only. That's the finding.
So this would change or actually add or extend the definition. And the question is do we need to make a recommendation to take it to C2 above, or leave it where it is.
The planning commission amendment does not include that. The planning commission's amendment includes it, to fall within that category.
Planning commission amendment was simply to define ambulatory surgical center.
Somebody else thinks it was on.
See, I think the issue, that what the issue being taken issue with is the neighborhood did not believe that the procedures were minor and that they were major surgeries because there was anesthesia involved. Therefore, under the definition of a clinic, it should not have been allowed under the C1 because it, in their opinion, is major surgery.
Right, but what we're doing then is, has nothing to do with the zoning or what happens past this point. It's just this definition in the UDC.
Right, that's correct.
Point of clarification, if I might, Mr. Leonard, is that if you do approve this, it justifies a possible previous bad zoning decision that the building-related board has obviously stated that they have openly stated they're concerned about a previous bad zoning decision being made while the two recommendations were made. And so it would condone their decision on 2140 Babcock. Inappropriate.
So I just have one point.
Yeah, we need to be able to.
We need
deliberate.
to, we've already heard,
Okay.
in my opinion, we need to.
That's the question, and I'm sorry if Susan just asked this, but are you going to add ambulatory surgical center as a line in the use matrix, or will people just need to find the definition and then see that they need to look for clinic in the use matrix? It's the latter.
My problem is I don't know what major surgery is. I mean, if you know it stays overnight.
Surgical services to patients who do not require overnight hospitalization or extensive recovery, convalescent time, or observation. The planned total length of stay for an ASC patient shall not exceed 23 hours. Patient stays of greater than 23 hours shall be the result of an unanticipated medical condition and shall occur infrequently. The 23-hour period begins with the induction of anesthesia.
So if you go to the Baptist Church Medical Center, they're licensed as a hospital, you can be hospitalized there for 2 or 3 or 6 days. You go to a Texas pet clinic, you gotta be out of there in less than a day.
But the last sentence there says that the 23 hours is based on the administrative anesthesia. So that is not consistent with saying, defining what's major surgery and what's not major surgery.
Well, the difference is too, one's general and one's in local. I mean, that's where you start getting into some real muddy waters in terms of general anesthetic. There are lots of things that are done with local anesthetics that are major, probably, if you were to ask somebody. I, for one, I think we can talk this to death. I think that it's, given this definition as proposed, I think it's an appropriate place to keep it. That would be, I mean, I'm comfortable with this because I see all sorts of problems from a particular, specifically from a permitted uses standpoint, if we were to do something different, because medical and dental are neighborhood uses. They have been for years, and most everything except for the one specific use that is in this neighborhood is falling in. I hate to see us start changing everything for a specific problem in a specific neighborhood. That's mine.
Now, if we recommend any changes, this got to go back to planning commission and then come back to us again. So we're done. If we recommend any changes to this, it stays, it goes to council that way. Or
Yeah, it's planning commission's amendment, so when it goes back to planning commission,
It'll either be in this form or whatever form it is.
And zoning commission also.
And one last thing, the big difference between C1 and C2 is on part of this building size.
Square footage.
Square footage.
C1's maximum 5,000 square foot footprint, cumulative 15,000 multi-story.
Multi-story or multi-building?
Multi-building.
Multi-buildings. For new construction.
New construction.
Because there are buildings out there that are currently in C1 that were built prior to the square footage limitation for C1, and that was a result of the code conversion from B1 to C1.
And
As
it's
long as
really
they don't
multi-story
expand
or
it.
multi-building, doesn't matter. It's a cumulative of 15, whether it's in several buildings or multi-story homes.
Another point of clarification on mine.
Yes, sir.
2140 Babcock is more than 15,000 square feet cumulative.
I'm kind of agreeing with Susan, is that you start messing with this definition too much, and all of a sudden you find yourself with dentists and other healthcare professionals not compliant, and you're world hurt, and that's, we're messing with where they belong.
To me, staff is doing what they're supposed to do, and that's look at it from a planning basis on the impact of a neighborhood for a use, and not the specific use of any clinic or whatever, as long as the impact. And so to me, they have done exactly what they're called upon to do, and this is appropriate for that. And that is not to debate my opinions on anything else, but that seems to me to be an appropriate conclusion that staff came to based on what you all do and what we're supposed to do.
Do you have any comments on it?
I agree with
Comment-
what Susan said.
Yeah, I do too, and just based on the comment I heard back there a while ago, it's, it's unfortunate you have this situation. Got a zoning case that this board had nothing to do with. It's unfortunate what happened in the minds of the people exposed. There is probably room to do other definitions. This isn't for us to say what we believe or don't believe, unfortunately. But that's not, I'm just saying that's not what we're here to do. So it doesn't really matter what we think on the subject. We've got a definition, unless somebody's going to come up with a way to separate some things and have different definitions. I can't disagree myself.
Okay. Any other comments? Everybody okay with this amendment? Anybody opposed to this amendment? All right, end of the report. Next item. Item, old business, item F.